everyone, and welcome back to Citizen Sports Talk here on CCTV Channel 20. My name is Jacob Smith.
I'm Kane Reinhardt.
And we're going to break down a lot of sports coverage. First week of Carroll County sports for us here on CCTV Channel 20 on Friday night, as the Carroll County Cavaliers took on the Grayson County Blue Devils. Carroll County was coming into the game 1-0 off a 35-21 win at Christiansburg, and Grayson County was coming off a 21-28 loss at Allegheny in North Carolina. So let's jump straight into it, Caden. Some thoughts off the Week 2 loss for the Cavaliers.
I thought that the mentality and the emotion of the Cavaliers was there for the entire 48 minutes of the contest. From that first quarter when they started with the ball, they had some big plays, big runs out the gate. And then, it transitioned. They scored a touchdown with 16 seconds left. So, I think that tenacity was there from that first whistle to the last whistle all night.
Absolutely. Definitely, Parker Dowell was definitely a presence for the Blue Devils side of things. He had a 72-yard rushing touchdown, an 18-yard receiving touchdown from his quarterback, a punt return for a touchdown to put the Blue Devils up 21-0 in the first half, interception in the first half, and a 55-yard rushing touchdown by the quarterback to end the ball game and essentially ice it. But Dan Leonard, I believe, and Sam McGrady both had big games. It was a hard fought game for both sides. I think we talked about it while during the game, which we did have audio issues. We're sorry about that. So you weren't able to hear our thoughts during the game, but you're hearing our thoughts post game. But it was a very competitive game, both sides, and just Grayson County was able to come away with the win.
Yeah, it just seemed like that defensive line for the Blue Devils was what really took them to the next step and able to solidify their victory there in Hillsville.
Yeah. I will say Carroll was beginning to have their way come the second half. They did score on the first drive of the second half off the onside kick. They were able to take advantage of some things, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough given what the Blue Devils were able to do. Like I said, the 72-yard rushing touchdown was on the first play of the drive. So 2 big plays, including that punt return touchdown. Sometimes the team that has the big plays is going to win it at the end of the day.
So how do you see this squad for Carroll going forward after, picking up the huge victory in Week 1 against Christiansburg, and now kind of maybe you can call it sort of a reality check against Grayson, a team that was in the state championship last year. So definitely some competition now in your first home game and contest in which you lose by 2 touchdowns.
Instead of a reality check, I would say it's almost more of like a wake-up call. You have the Week 1, the highs of the Week 1 win, and now the lows of the Week 2 loss, which Grayson County controlled the game for 4 quarters, but looking at Carroll County's schedule coming up, they're at Galax next week and at Fort Chiswell, which are 2 not great opponents in terms of the level of talent there this year. Galax didn't even play this week. They had to forfeit their game against Graham, and Fort Chiswell, I believe, is 0-2 to start the year. So Carroll County may be 3-1 by the time we're talking, or we're going back to Carroll to cover the Patrick County game on September 26th.
Definitely. I think going forward with this program, the next couple of weeks could prove to be what they want to see more of.
Yeah, and something we didn't talk a whole lot about, but we do got to keep a reminder, Grayson County's coming off a state championship appearance, so it's not like Carroll County lost to a bad team or a bad program. They've had success recently, and they showed that they still can have that success tonight.
I think so. Definitely it did shine through for them here at Carroll.
Yeah, I think We'll take a quick break and we'll be back talking about some other scores for Carroll's region looking ahead. Postseason is not close yet, but we might as well go ahead and take a little bit of a jump into that. You're watching Citizen Sports Talk here on CCTV Channel 20. Welcome back to Citizen Sports Talk. We've already broken down the Carroll County game between the Cavaliers and the Blue Devils, so transitioning into some other scores from around Region 3D, or Region D for Class 3, I should say. Cave Spring lost to Northside 27-0, so that's 6 points for the playoffs that Northside will get. Christiansburg lost to Abington 28-9. Hidden Valley lost to William Byrd 65-3. Pulaski County was able to pick up their first win of the year against Tazewell 26-6. Lord Botetourt was on their bye this week. They played in week 0 against Rock Cove and played against Rustburg. So they're currently 2-0 as well. Stanton River lost to Jefferson Forest 40-7. So they only get 1 point since Jefferson Forest is a Class 4 school. And then Bassett lost to Gretna 48-41. And then Tunstall won 46-3 against Chatham. Magna Vista won 36-0 against Martinsville. And once again, Abington defeating Christiansburg in a pretty big matchup. You know, Christiansburg coming off the loss against Carroll, and Abington's now 2-0 this year with 12 points. And is there anything you'd like to add before we transition elsewhere, Caden?
Definitely just some good competition. We'll have to be looking forward to keeping up with all season now with the addition of us expanding our coverage into Carroll County.
Absolutely. And I think now transitioning back to Floyd for a little bit, the Three Rivers District Tournament for golf was this week. And let's say the Buffaloes had a little bit of success. They came out on top in that match. And they came out on top in terms of the all-district team. Isaiah Cantrell and Peyton Mason made first team all-district. And then Ryder Quisenberry, Bryson Harris, and Jonathan Whitlow made second team all-district. So anything you'd like to add as the former golf player, Caden?
No, I think that's a great program they got right there. I mean, every week, or every match, I should say, they're throwing out there and fielding 6 golfers, and to have 6 of them earn all-district honors is just a true testament to how deep that team is. So look for them to make a deep run at states again this year.
Absolutely. So we'll transition into volleyball now for Floyd County. Their only game this week was against William Fleming, a 5A school out of Roanoke. They were able to win that game in 3 sets, so they picked up 9 points. And a little bit explaining that, William Fleming, like I said, is a 5A school. Floyd is a 2A school, so you get 6 points with the win, and you get another additional 3 since they're 3 school classes higher. So just explaining that a little bit to the people at home will probably provide a visual aid that will make more sense once we get closer to the playoffs to kind of help the viewers at home understand the math, if that is, you would say, beneficial to our audience.
Definitely just to be able to give a visual to our words.
I feel like I have a lot of words that are just not making any sense right now. But elsewhere, for volleyball, Patrick County is 3-0. They have 21 points. They've beaten Bassett twice and Carroll County last night in 3 sets. Glenver is 4-1. Radford's 3-1. James River is still undefeated as well with 4-0. Martinsville just had their first game earlier this week against William Fleming, so they also got 9 points this week by playing Fleming. Nelson County and Liberty are both still looking for their first win of the season. Floyd will travel to Liberty on Monday to face the Lady Minutemen, so that may be a potential opportunity for the Lady Minutemen to get their first win, or the Lady Buffs can continue to build on some momentum that they've had kind of early last year. Yes, it didn't really work out towards the end of the year, but, you know, a little bit of a hot start again this year. So anything you'd like to add before we transition?
I think that's about it, covering the volleyball for now.
Yep, and before we take another break, we'll go ahead and talk about some of the scores from Floyd's region for football, Class 2 Region C. So, well, as many of you may be aware, Floyd County had their bye week this week, so they had their week off. They didn't play anybody. Patrick County, starting off, they had a 41-17 loss against North Surrey out of North Carolina. They were a Class 4 school out of North Carolina, so I believe that's 2 points for Patrick County despite not getting the win. Glenvar continues to dominate their early competition, beating Liberty 56-0. They have not allowed a single score or single point all year. Radford, in what we both agreed on is probably the upset of the week, 34-21 loss at against Giles. So they dropped to 1-1 on the year. James River lost to Blacksburg 36-26. So James River is no longer defeated as well after coming off a big win with spoiling Auburn's return, or the football program's return. Martinsville, of course, we mentioned earlier, lost 36-0 against Magna Vista. They still got 1 point because Magna Vista is a class higher. Nelson County beat Stonewall Jackson 33-20. Appomattox beat, I believe it was Rustburg 16-14. So they get 7 points. Chatham lost as well. We mentioned that a little bit earlier as well, 43-6. They still got 1 point, however, because Tunstall is a 3A school as well. And Gretna, being able to come away with the win against Bassett, gets the 6 points and the additional point to beating Bassett, who's, again, a Class 3 school. And then Dan River lost 29-17 against Halifax. They're a 4A school, so it's only 2 points. It's 2 points for Dan River. And then Liberty, of course, having the pretty marginal loss against the Highlanders, 56-0. So our playoffs, I mean, the region, we talked about it last week. Pretty much everybody in the Three Rivers won last week. Glenvar was the only team to do it this week, and, you know, a lot of undefeated seasons ended in Class 2 Region C. So definitely excited. Some of these matchups that may be interesting. Glenvar's playing Cave Spring next week, and then Gretna's playing Tunstall. They just beat Chatham, and then Dan River at Bassett. So a couple of Dogwood, Piedmont region matchups next week. But of course, one we probably need to preview the most is the Floyd County Blacksburg game. That'll be here live on CCTV Channel 20 as Floyd County, coming off the win against Narrows last week, they're going to be coming off the bye next week, taking on a Blacksburg team that just defeated James River in what was a somewhat close game. I mean, they did host James River as well, so having to come on the road next week. Anything really talking about last week on how we thought about Floyd County coming out of the Narrows game that you think was addressed during the bye week and now is going to be carried over into next Friday, Caden?
I think the biggest thing that could have been addressed going in from, you know, taking the bye week already just early in the season, recouping after a week 1 victory is just getting that refresh. You know, you got your toes wet. You're kind of, I don't know how to word it. You're almost recouping after that first victory. You don't have to worry about a week 2 scenario. So just, I think, staying calm and the week one game might not have been perfect, but that's the most expected in week one. So I think just looking at the positives and not worrying about the downsides this week is the key to moving forward.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. And like you said, it's early in the year. I mean, we talked about it despite our audio issues during the Carroll broadcast. It's still early in the year. It's hard to tell it's hard to identify the great teams when you have so little exposure to them. Like, you don't really. Sometimes it may just be the level of competition, and sometimes it may just be a bad Friday night. So, still kind of early to identify like the true contenders, if you will, here in week 2. So, I think we'll take one more break, and we'll be back in just a moment. We'll recap just a little bit. Mr. Moran gave us some details on the cross-country meet that's kicked off their season, and then we'll preview some of the upcoming events for Floyd County and Carroll County sports. You're watching Citizen Sports Talk. Welcome back. A little final segment here for Citizen Sports Talk this week. Mr. Moran gave me a little bit of the details from the cross-country meet from last Saturday. The girls varsity finished 5th out of 14 teams and were the top 2A school. The boys finished 13th out of 22 teams and were the second 2A school. And for the middle school side, Grayson Harris won the boys race, and Dana Webster was 5th, and Audrey Rakestraw was 9th. Both were top 10 on the girls' side. So that's a little recap, a little bit about the cross-country meet from last week. So now to wrap things up for this edition of Citizen Sports Talk, Carroll County of sporting events, the girls varsity volleyball team has a tournament at Patrick Henry on Saturday the 6th, along with boys and girls cross country at Cave Spring versus Cave Spring at Green Hill Park. On the 8th, middle school JV golf both have a match. Middle school at Old Mill Golf Club at Laurel Fork, and the JV will be at Great Oaks here in Floyd. Middle school JV and varsity volleyball all go. Middle school goes to Christiansburg, and JV and varsity go to Lord Botetourt. And then middle school football plays Galax at 6 p.m. on Monday. On the 9th, the girls' middle school volleyball plays at Shawsville Middle School. And on the 10th, we got a long list here. Middle school golf is at Auburn Hills versus Christiansburg. JV golf is at Laurel Fork at the Old Mill Golf Club. Cross country, both boys and girls, at Graham High School. JV and varsity girls volleyball is at Carroll County versus Marion, or I should say at home versus Marion. And then football has a JV game against Pulaski County at home. And then on Thursday, they have a volleyball triple header versus Radford for middle school, and then Glenver for JV and varsity. And then middle school football plays Fort Chiswell at home. And of course, maybe a little bit pending, based on the knowledge or the information that we have with Galax having to forfeit their game this week. Carroll County will host or travel to Galax next Friday on the 12th. And then transitioning to Floyd County events, and this will wrap up this edition of Citizen Sports Talk. The 6th, the girls and boys will both be at Green Hill Park at Salem. The Knights Crossing meet. On the 8th, it'll be a JV golf match at Great Oaks versus Franklin County. And then JV and varsity girls volleyball will be at Liberty. I mentioned that briefly earlier. On the 9th, middle school golf will play at Giles Country Club. On the 10th, middle school and JV will both be traveling. Middle school golf will be at Auburn Hills, and JV golf will be at Old Mill Golf Course. A little bit is overlapping with the Carroll County schedule that I was reading off just a moment ago. And then Wednesday, once again, a volleyball triple header against Blacksburg at Allen Cantrell Court, or the old gym for middle school. And then kind of a similar setup Thursday with the volleyball triple header against Patrick County at home versus the Cougars. And then middle school and JV will be at Blacksburg on Thursday the 11th. So the Buffaloes can host the Bruins on September 12th to wrap up the week next week. Caden, any thoughts just on the schedule, reading that off before we sign off for next time?
I think it should just be another great week of sports for both Carroll and Floyd.
Absolutely. So that's all the time we have tonight. My name is Jacob Smith.
Caden Reinhard.
And you're watching Citizen Sports Talk. Go Buffaloes and go Cavaliers.